Hello, everyone, and welcome again to FanoosMagazine.com. I am here with the beautiful, the wonderful, the amazing Micheline, and you know that you are. I follow her on Instagram, and I have found so many of your posts to be insightful and just incredibly culturally diverse. So, welcome, Micheline.
Thank you for having me, Oriana. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So I know you personally because we both live in Florida and you're involved in the Orlando dance scene with Zizi and her team and her school. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm Micheline. I'm originally Syrian Lebanese, half and half. My dad's Lebanese, my mom's Syrian. I was born in Syria. And I moved to Florida when I was 8 years old. And I always struggled with my identity because of that. Actually, before Florida, there was Venezuela and then Florida. So I actually speak Spanish, fun fact, because of that. So, and a lot of my family from Lebanon and Syria immigrated to Venezuela. So a lot of my family is mixed. I'm not mixed, I'm full Arab, but we have a mix in our family. So I've always grown up with like a sort of identity crisis, if you could say, especially when I moved to Florida because I didn't speak English at the time. I was bullied a lot for being different. I didn't fit in with, the full-on Americans. I didn't fit in with the Latinas because they knew I was a little different. I didn't have any Arab friends, and plus, I tried to hide my identity growing up. So I think that kind of I struggled a lot with my identity. I wanted to fit in wherever I was. So I was from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So it's kind of been my story. And I think prompted me to go into mental health. So I'm a therapist. I have my private practice in Orlando, Florida, and we deal with trauma, anxiety disorders, and especially as it relates to identity. So I've worked a lot on my identity and reconnecting to myself and being confident in who I am, and my culture. And so that's kind of where it landed me. I think the search for meaning in my own life led me on this mental health path. And part of my healing has been dance. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. I have always when I was little, my parents would put me on tables and make me shimmy. It's part of our culture, so it's always been present in my life. But I started, actually learning technique, as you could say, not too long ago with Zizi. And it's been healing. It's been extremely healing. And I didn't want to perform. I didn't want to do any of that. I really just went into it for um, me and connecting to my body and reconnecting because with trauma, there's a big disconnect that happens with mind body. And I was very dissociated, very checked out. And so that's been one of the most healing things for me. And from that came Habiby Fit, which we'll talk about in here as well.
So you touched on so many points of, being of the culture, but being so removed from it, not feeling like you belong anywhere. But when you teach, you are still, I think very culturally informed, and you do bring a level of understanding that does go beyond technique. So, as an instructor, what do you feel like is most often lost or maybe misunderstood, because oftentimes when we first start classes as students, we're seeing it outside of a cultural context.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I noticed gets lost a lot is the community aspect. Not, I know there's a dance community and like we become sisters with the people we dance with and the other studios and everything. But when I mean community, it's like dancing in community, like dancing for like a purpose, not a purpose to perform, but like the purpose to just be and just celebrate. And one of the things that I found, like I said with my intro, I didn't go into it to want to perform. I never had that idea in my mind at all, actually, because I didn't even know that was possible as an adult. I hadn't danced, I wasn't a dancer professionally my whole life or anything like that. So I came in and I really just wanted that connection with other women, with myself. And I think a lot of spaces from my experience since I've started is that that kind of gets lost in a lot of spaces. So a lot of spaces are hyper focusing on the performance aspect of things, which can be really discouraging for somebody who just wants to connect and really feel their body. So that often gets missed, and I wish there was more spaces where they're like, "Hey, we're just gonna get together and move. No cameras, no dressing up, no, just like let's get together and celebrate each other." Another thing that I think gets missed a lot is eh, this dance, like, is made for women by women of all sizes, all ages, all yeah, all kinds of women, just women. And so I think that also kind of gets lost here. A lot of times people think they have to look a certain way or dress a certain way, and a lot of people look at, I'm going to use the word belly dance for the purpose of this, but rashari, they look at it as a I love the bling. I love the, the dresses and the glam of it all. And so you get a lot of people that are really interested in that aspect of it. And so it kind of, as somebody who, this is our culture, I feel like it kind of minimizes what it is, it kind of like condenses it into something that it's not just that. Of course, there is that, but it's not just that. And I see a lot of body shaming that comes out of that as well. um, I've seen comments when we post stuff online, or even women that come into classes and thinking, well, I'm not the right look for this. And then we have to kind of work on unlearning all of that and being like, this isn't what the dance was in its origin. And it is for everybody. And you can look however you want to look, and you can dance and move however you want to dance and move. There's not one right way to do it. And I think also a lot of spaces miss the teaching of the cultural context of it and the advocacy and the responsibility that comes along with dancing something that is not in your culture, like that you're borrowing essentially or you're learning from. So I'm a decolonial therapist, and in that I say I'm a decolonial dancer. So I try to decolonize, so strip all the messages that are harmful to people of color and people of different backgrounds. So I feel like those aspects are the biggest things that I've kind of uh, started seeing since I started dancing.
That is so incredibly poignant, especially right now, because I feel like I've definitely seen, well, every couple of years you see this wave of body shaming or nasty comments online. And lately it has been towards women of color in particular, um, which I don't think is necessarily a coincidence given everything that's going on. But it is extremely disheartening, to put it lightly. It's, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's really sad because if you go anywhere in the Middle East, or Southwest Asia, North Africa is the better term. If you go anywhere there, you will see women of all sizes and shapes dancing. And I don't know if it's the term that's kind of made that seem, I mean, in dance in general, I think there's this misconception of how somebody should look to dance or be on TV or whatever, anything that's performance based. They want a certain look, which I think unlearning that's really important. But I think it's really sad because a lot of women that can benefit from dancing may never set foot in a dance studio because they think that it's not for them because no one else is going to look like them, and therefore they'll be shamed or singled out, or not be able to find the right dress because nothing will fit them or whatever. There's a lot that we need to unlearn, and I think teachers have a responsibility to help people actually change that as well.
Speaking of teaching again, so you have Habiby Fit,
Mhm.
and that is blending dance and fitness in a very accessible way. I feel like when teachers have maybe previously done some of their belly fit class or belly cardio classes, it kind of loses some things in transition, in that when you're blending things, because then it becomes about fitness. But to your point about making accessible for everybody, how are you maintaining the integrity of this art form that we know and love while making it approachable and fitness oriented and, dare I say, fun?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think accessibility should require cultural erasure. And also, I don't think, I think a lot of times we focus a lot on technique and to me, it's not just an art. Pretty much, it's not like when I think of dancing, to me, I'm thinking of connecting to culture. So it's not, and it is an art, but it's not the way I'm looking at it in my classes. I'm looking at it as a way to help students understand my culture better and understand that their bodies can move and be healthy in the sense of like getting movement in and getting the benefits of movement while learning about culture and respecting culture. And maybe people are interested in this and they don't want to perform and they don't want to learn intricate choreographies and they don't have the goal of becoming a pro. They just want to move their bodies in this way because it's beautiful and they love the music and they love, the culture. They want to learn more about the culture. So for me, I teach my students culture a lot in my class. So if you were to come into one of my classes, I talk about being Syrian and Lebanese. I talk about the music that we're dancing to. I translate almost all the songs. So, I mean, I'm not word for word, but at least I give them a gist of this is what the song is saying. And when they say this part, this is why it's like this. So I think sometimes we hyper focus on the technique aspect of dance, and a lot of times the emotional, cultural aspect is missed. So, I find that integrity is maintained when, let's say, I'm teaching somebody what the song is saying, and then they change because now they understand a little bit better, like how they could feel it, right? And one of the things about Habibi Fit is that, yeah, it's a workout class, but it's repeated every week. So I have a set, I create choreographies for certain songs and it increases month by month because I continue to increase, a new song that I will choreograph and do it. And it's just simple to follow. The chorus repeats, so they repeat the same moves. Each week they come in and they repeat the same moves to the same songs. And yeah, I'll add one new one or throw them off a little bit. But I think what ends up happening is they get more and more comfortable each week with their bodies and with the song and with the moves. So seeing that transformation is really cool. It's really, really cool. So I think that, and for me, my goal is embodiment, not perfection. So I'm not trying to get them. I don't care. I tell them this at the beginning of class. You're not here to perform. You're here to connect to your body. You're here to move. You're here to feel good, to de-stress. I'm also a therapist, so I tell them that and I'm like, we shake our stress out. I'm a somatic therapist at that, so I usually have my clients in sessions like move their bodies in some sort of way. And I think to me, healing matters more than perfection. So I feel, and that I feel is like how I maintain that integrity because in our culture, that's how it is. It's like nobody's doing it to perform for anybody else. Everyone's doing it to connect with everybody else. And as long as that happens in my class, like I'll have Arab girls come in. I have a large group of Arab girls that come in. And I love that because I want them to feel like there's a space for them. And sometimes they don't want to follow the choreography that I'm doing because they feel that song differently than I do. And I see them in the mirror and I say to them, do not copy me. If you don't want to copy me, please don't copy me. Like if you want to do something completely different than what I'm doing, I encourage you to do it because I actually love that because I see the feeling in that. So I'll have people doing something completely different and it actually makes me really happy. So, yeah.
I completely agree with that. Actually, like even as a non-Arabic of origin teacher, um, I live in a very Arabic neighborhood here in Tampa, which is super great.
Yeah.
And I had a Palestinian student who started coming to my classes, and she would sometimes wing out and kind of start dancing on her own, and just kind of, I could see her just closing her eyes, and she was just having so much fun. And I said, like, do whatever you feel, but it was actually very good for my non-Arabic students to see that too. Like, it has a very different effect. Like, you're giving someone space, but you're also allowing them to demonstrate their own culture. It's so important.
So important because that's how we learn. I was talking to Zizi the other day about this, about Habibi Fit, and I was saying, I think what I love most about it is that it's not that they don't learn. Her class is right before mine, and she teaches technique and drills, and that's a class without choreography, so they can go to that class as well. But that's very heavily focused on this is how you move, this is how you do an Omi, this is how you do a Maya, this is how you do, and it's beautiful because those are people, like, it's also good for them to learn how not to hurt themselves or how to do the moves appropriately, right? But there's also something to, like, when we learned growing up, we didn't learn by somebody breaking it down, like, okay, forward, side, back, or, we learned by watching our grandmas, our great grandmas, our aunts, our cousins dancing. And so that's one of the things that I also think it's a different way of learning, by repetition and continuing to. So watching a Palestinian, like you said in your class, just like move, it helps the girls because they're like, oh, wait, I've never seen a hip drop be done like that. Or, oh, that's a cool way to do something with your arms. That's a little bit different than what I've learned. And so that could be inspiring, for people that we mirror people. So having, that in classes, I think, especially of people of the culture, is really cool.
1,000%. And it's also so important to have spaces for teachers of origin. And I always feel like when you get to a place of advancement in this dance, usually that does come because you want to be a professional performer. And then people will finally start telling you, like, oh, you have to study with the teachers of the origin. If you really want to be good at this, you have to go to Egypt, you have to go to Turkey, you have to study with so and so, that kind of thing. But what I never get to hear enough of is, well, that means going to them. But what about if you are a teacher from the cultures of origin and you are existing in this environment that typically glorifies, I'm going to say, professional dancers that are not of origin or have a different aesthetic or is focused so on technique, because you are teaching from lived experience,
Yeah.
not from the learned interpretation that you just mentioned. So how are you navigating with things that so many people struggle with, like marketing and class retention, because you are coming from that different perspective?
Yeah, so I think I go back to my roots. I don't care if I have one student in my class or I have 50. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because I needed a space, and I know other women in my culture needed a non-performative, non-perfectionist space. So I struggle sometimes because of more of the judgment from other people than what I want to do. So sometimes I'll get in my head and I'll think, oh, well, she doesn't have the most perfect technique, and she's hasn't been dancing for that long, and like, why, why would she want to start this class and not, just continue to take classes, for instance? That's what goes in my head. And maybe some people are having that thought, maybe not. But for me, it's like, I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm doing this for me. And my target initially, like mostly actually, is women of my culture. I want women of my culture to have a safe space to come where they don't feel like they um, have to impress. So one thing that a lot of people don't realize is whenever Arab girls go into a belly dance class, even though if you put on a song and have them improvise, they'll do really well. The moment they enter into a technique class, they will freeze up. And every single girl has always said, I thought I knew how to dance, and now I'm realizing I don't. And I'm sorry, I don't know if you're my, I know my husband's doing, there's something, okay. I don't know if you hear that, but that was like a little vacuumy thing. Oh, okay. But so it happens where I've had a lot of friends come in to Zizi's class, and they'll tell me, I thought I knew how to dance, and now I realize I don't. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, she's teaching you technique. So like now your brain is in it, and like you're worried about the breakdown of the moves, and you're not embodied, right? So that's the difference. It's not that you don't know how to dance, it's that now you're focused and before you weren't feeling. So when we go from feeling to focus and thoughts, naturally you're going to disconnect a little bit until you pick up the technique and start dancing. So I think for me, it's like me navigating this is I want to show people that your body already knows what to do. That's my way of doing it. Like your body knows what to do. Arab girls, come in here. Like I want you to have a space that's for you. Um, I also want to, a lot of times there's a lot of shame in our culture for our women of our culture dancing. And my parents had a problem with it at the beginning. Not too bad of a problem. Like they didn't care. It's when I started going on stage with Zizi that they were like, what are you doing? Okay, are you not like, why are you doing this? You know, they come to every single one of my shows and support it. My dad was the first one on stage after one of the performances. So I'm very grateful and privileged in that my parents support it, but not everybody's parents support it. So I feel like and I think it is because of the colonization of the dance and how it's been presented to the West. Um, the misconception in the West is that it's a very sexual dance, and it's not. It doesn't have to be. Of course, you can make any dance sexual, but it's not you could make any, right? Like you could make ballet sexual if you wanted to. You can make hip hop sexual. You can make anything sexual. But Ras Shari doesn't have to be, it could be sensual, it could be beautiful, embodied. It doesn't have to be sexual, but there's this like if you tell like a random person that's not into belly dance, you do belly dance, they automatically have this preconceived idea about what it is. And so um, I want to be like, this is a space where maybe I can change your parents' minds. Like, we can just come in here and we're gonna do some depke, and we're gonna do, you know, some Egyptian dance, and we're gonna do some dances to Lebanese music too, and Syrian music, and like we're gonna bring it back to its roots. So that's been like my marketing, I guess you could say, is bringing it back to the roots and not worrying, because I'm decolonizing my own brain, not worrying about anybody having perfect form or perfect technique. The most important part for me is, are they culturally aware and connected? Are they embodied and connected, mind body? Are they safe doing it? You know, yeah, if there's somebody doing something that can hurt them, I'll pause and you know, help them out. I always give like the form, like slight bend in your knees, pelvic tilt, like shoulders back, like make sure that you're not like harming your lower back. But there's obviously the safety measures, but also the most important thing is always like, be you, like just be you. And that's kind of my marketing, like on Instagram and TikTok. I include my mental health component into the videos that I'm making for that. And I'm constantly calling for Arab girls to come in and telling them like, this is a space where you can follow along easily or do what you want. And hopeful, and not just Arab girls, but it's just that I want them to come in because I want them to feel like they have a space as well.
So, being in a background of being a somatic therapist as well, and you've mentioned like being embodied many times, I feel like that's something that a lot of instructors tend to struggle with as well. Is that, yeah, we do get very technique focused, but you also have to be aware that you are in the business of people, of working with people, moving, and we are typically in the business of working with women. And women and their bodies have a very tragic and sometimes difficult relationship. Women in the West versus women of other parts of the world are often taught to view things about their body a different way. Like you mentioned dancing, you know, being shamed for doing your own dance in your own culture is something that's hard to wrap your head around as a Western person. So how do you, well, okay, let me ask this in two parts. How might you see some of that come up, like some of this embodied trauma, and then how do you handle it as an instructor?
I mean, it comes up in so many ways from tension and rigidity to a shutdown as soon as there's any eyes on you. Um, and I can't even be near your camera because what if my parents see it? Um, there's so many ways that it shows up. One of the things I've noticed the most is yeah, like obviously the tension and rigidity. Like all of a sudden there's like it's like we go to a restaurant and we dance, like we go to Arabian Nights or Cedars or something, and like there's live music, and then the same Arab girls are up dancing, and they're a different person than the moment that they step foot into the classroom. They like shut down. And so it shows up that way. Maybe it's still that performance aspect. Maybe it's disconnection because now there's an association between classroom and perfectionism or classroom and um, yeah, like having to be like be a certain way, even if it's not a performance based class. It's like they're watching me and maybe they're trying to look just like me, or like maybe the student next to me or something. And so everyone tends to shut down, whereas the difference being at a restaurant or a party, no one's really, it's like everyone's dancing, so the eyes are not all on you. And even though in the classroom we are, there's mirrors, so there's that. But so I've tackled it in multiple ways. First way is always expressing to them, like, this is not a performance-based class. There's no one's watching you, no one's judging you. We don't judge anybody in here. This is for you. Try to feel like that's why I translate. If you don't speak Arabic, like, here is what the song is saying, and this is why we're doing this move. So for instance, like I do one that's Tanura by Faris Karam, and it's one of the most popular ones everyone loves. And there's a part where like he says, yeah, she walks and her skirt goes up, and we walk, we like undulate forward, and then our skirt goes up. We kind of like lift our hip up a little bit. And I tell them this is what's happening in this moment, so you can actually act it out if you want. So try to like feel the song, feel the music. And if you speak Arabic, you already know what the song is saying. So like, act like that girl that's he's singing about. Be that person and have fun with it. Like this, you're here for fun. You're not here to stress. I'm not testing you. I'm not putting you up on stage. I'm not gonna record you if you don't want to be recorded. I'm not grading you. So like try to do that. That works sometimes, and then sometimes it still doesn't, and you can tell that everybody's pretty rigid. So one of my strategies is to have a song or two where we don't look at each other even. So I've done this circle, and I'll have everybody like start off facing in to the circle, and then I say, okay, when this part of the song changes, I'm going to say turn around, and everybody faces the outside of the circle. So now no one can see anybody. And in that moment, I'm like, now do what your body wants to do, even if it's just swayed side to side, even if it's just moving your head, even if it's like sitting down and you don't want to do anything. What does your body want to do in this moment? And no one's watching you, so there's no judgment. And so I'll turn around, I'm not watching them either. And then I'll say, and then I'll make a noise or something when it's time for us to flip back and dance for each other again if we want to. So it's the first time I did it in class, everyone was still kind of like, are they really like watching? Are they really no one's watching me? And I could see like, a little bit, I'll like look around and see some of them like letting loose, and then other people being like still a little rigid. But as we do it more and more in class, I see the looseness start to come up because they're like trusting the process now. So I try to help them embody by taking out the pressure that most people have, which is being witnessed and being seen, because that's a different level of embodiment, like being able to stay connected to yourself while being witnessed or perceived is hard for a lot of people, especially in a shame-based culture like ours. So that's one of my strategies to get them to be more comfortable. And it's a process. It's like therapy. I tell them it's like therapy. It's not going to work right away, but 6 months from now, you might notice that as soon as we turn back around and we say, okay, somebody get in the middle and like let's all clap for that person, you might feel the urge to be the one in the middle. So, and never forcing, right? Like never forcing somebody to do it.
I actually love that idea. I've seen the, like somebody get in the middle circle plenty of times, but I love the facing away idea. That's really, that's really cool. I love that. I'm gonna.
I struggled in Zizi's class with that part, with when she would say, let's improvise, because although I could improvise in my house with nobody watching me, as soon as I see people who have studied longer, quote unquote, like the technique, the people that were doing like 20 moves in 1 minute, and I feel like embodiment is also almost like less moves. Like if you really see like dancers of the culture, there's like that haven't been in classes in the West, you'll see though a lot of repetition, a lot of the same moves, a lot of the and it's beautiful. It's still extremely beautiful, but I think when we start watching dancers online and the acrobatic belly dancing, as I like to call it, with certain styles, it becomes really intimidating for a lot of people. And so that was what I struggled with because a lot of my feed was that. And I was like, oh shit, belly dance has changed. Ras has changed. Like, is everybody doing this? And I realize now, no, okay, we still have our origins, but there is like competitive dance and there's a lot of that happening. So it can be really intimidating. So I remember thinking to myself, I would be okay if no one was watching me. And so that's where that idea I was like, well, what if nobody watches and everybody's like facing outside? And it works really nicely. So try it out, see how your students feel. I think it'll feel really good for them,
I
especially those that are shy to improvise.
I love that idea. I think that would even be beneficial for professionals that are too hung up on technique. That would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some subtle cultural details, like maybe gestures or stage presence, even if you're not performing, that you find yourself emphasizing because they seem to be overlooked a lot?
Um, I think kind of like what I just mentioned, which is the repetition, like not getting caught up with doing more in less time, but really just like feeling what your body wants to do, because then you can listen to the song and embellish a little bit more. I mean, if you speak Arabic, you can embellish a little more. But with the students that don't speak Arabic, like translating the song, like we do, كل البنات بتحبك كل البنات بتحبك كل البنات حلوين حلوين. Okay, so I explained to them what that means, like, and how, all the girls are beautiful. And we do like a little like beauty thing. There are certain gestures in our culture that may fit the music, like بدنا نروق, and we tend to like this is like a very common hand gesture. So I try to include like little things here and there. I don't overdo it because I also think that um I don't want to cross the line into people acting like and being like, overusing gestures that may not really be appropriate for them. But there's little things that, yeah, you could do this, or you could, like, point at your eye when there's like they're talking about ayuni or elbi or whatever word, just to kind of one help them learn the word. So now like they hear it in multiple songs and they can learn the word. Or maybe they're just maybe this is like a universal hand gesture that we use, kind of like Italians, Arabs speak a lot with their hands. And so there are, like when we say like calm down, we tend to do this, like calm down. So bidnandru, and I'll like kind of uh do a hand gesture just to show them something. And that's like okay because they'll see it. If they travel to the Middle East, they might see that hand gesture and they'll automatically understand rather than like making it performative. Um, but yeah, it's more again about like I think what's more important is the body expression and just like being able to feel what their body really wants to do in that moment. So like I may want to do like backward circles, like figure eights, and maybe somebody else wants to do Omis or Mayas or whatever, but I want to focus more on that. But I think with Habibi Fit, it's a little bit hard because I do create like the choreographies for them and then they just like follow along. So I'm like already telling them what to do, except for when I say do what you want. In this moment and just like allowing that to happen. If they know the song, I'll see the Arab girls making their own like, and then I'll explain if I see somebody doing something, I'll explain it to the girls. There's a lot of girls that don't speak Arabic and we teach them that and they get very excited. But yeah, I think I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it does. It does. There's a lot of subtle, very nuanced things where I would have to completely agree with you. Like when you watch Egyptian dancers, whether they're famous, not famous, trained, not trained, you watch people dancing at parties, you go to a wedding, you see a lot of these little subtleties, and you don't see the emphasis on doing 500 moves or making it really big, or the big arms. Like it's always important to remind our students that there is a stage version, there is a version that you do at your cousin's wedding,
yeah,
and they're not always the same, and the intention is very different.
exactly.
Yes.
Even with Depke, like if you go to Lebanon and you go you have Baalbek and you have the stage Depke, and then you go to a wedding and you have the street Depke, so it looks completely different, right? They're not, none of them are wrong. It's just knowing the nuances and the gesture and the different moves that are done in the different spaces. It's important for people to know.
Is there anything else that you have coming up? Anything you'd like to promote? Any projects? Any shout outs you want to give?
Oh, I do want to shout out Zizi because she does teach me the technique aspect of it, and without her, like I feel like I would have stayed the shy girl that would never post myself online. Honestly, you should have seen me when I first started her class, so I'm really grateful for her. She's my best friend too. But I think I don't have okay. So right now it's just my Habibi Fit classes are Wednesdays and Sundays. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. at the Luke's Gala venue and Sundays 11 a.m. at the Winter Park Ballroom. I don't have major of my retreat just ended. We just had a somatic healing retreat in Flagler Beach for mental health. And it just ended on Sunday actually, and went fantastic. So now I'm planning. I'm like, I got the bug. It was my very first one, so now I'm planning my next one probably early next year. Somatic healing for therapy, and dance is always included in that because I feel like dance is so healing. So but that's it. If anyone needs therapy, my practice is Serene Counseling. So they can reach out to me, and I have a group of therapists that we can all have.
That is amazing. Thank you so, so much. I'm so glad we got to talk. And everybody stay tuned to fanoosmagazine.com for more, and make sure to follow Micheline and Habiby Feet and keep up with all the adventures. Thank you so much.